Here's a little bit. You may hear one of my guest speakers. Hi, Katie. I have a rooster named Tank, and he's currently on my back porch crowing at me. So if you hear a crow in the background, just know that's Tank wanting to get in on the lecture. He's a beautiful red rooster, but he's pretty picky about, you know, when he needs his snacks. So that'll just be Tank asking for a snack, as you guys might need to. I'm having my coffee. Anyone else? It's in the afternoon. All right, well, let's look at what we have in store. Dr. Pepper will certainly work, Chris. Great, now I'm craving a Dr. Pepper. There's just something about Dr. Pepper that you have to have on every once in a while. Okay, our announcements. I've already said we're in week 3, which means we've earned over 50% off our course. It's like it's on sale. I appreciate all the time that you guys are putting into your assignments. I'm not kidding you. You guys have been a fantastic class. Everyone seems to be turning in very thoroughly answered questions. I appreciate that. You're putting fantastic things up on the discussion board. Overall, well, thank you, Blanca. Thank you. Overall, I just kind of feel sort of spoiled by you guys. I'm glad that I've had the chance to have you as a group because you're a great group of students. Just so you know that, okay? I don't tell everyone that. You're doing great. And also, it's time to really focus on your final project if you haven't already been doing so, because we've got these 2 weeks left, right? So just a little bit about our final project. Let's look real quick at week 3, which is where you should be at right now. So hopefully you guys have already chosen your product, you've chosen your sales method, and this week you're going to do a little bit as far as your sales dialogue goes, because that's what we're addressing in chapter 7 and 8. So since I have 4 of you here, which would be 50% of the class as well, on my pen, I would like to get a little feedback really quick. Here's the thing, when this is the first time we've taught this class with this book. I point at it like you can see it. I'm kind of lucky because I have an actual hard copy of the book. There it is. That's the back, never mind. There it is. I love having a hard copy of books. I love being able to get my paws on the print, on the books themselves. So, in chapter 7 and 8, which we're addressing this week, you should be focusing on this part of our final project. So, why I bring this up is that I had 2 choices at the beginning of this class when I talked to the business department head. She said, Shani, you can either set it up so that they work on a little bit of the project each week, but don't have to turn it in, or you can set it up so that they work on a little bit of the final project each week and do have to turn that section in, and then at the end they turn it in all together as a project as a whole. So what I would love to do is know from you as a student, which do you prefer? Would you rather me have had this as an assignment each week or having it at the very end? You like it in bits, Chris? A little bit each week, and Katie prefers it all at the end, right? And what about you, Blanca? Which way do you feel on it? At the end of the week as well? Oh, wow. See, that really surprises me. Okay, okay. that really surprises me, because in my mind I thought, I guess I'm not a last minute person. I do like to do things a little bit at a time, but I'm okay at putting off things and getting them done sort of in my own time as I roll it over and think about it. And so it sounds like you guys would rather have the assignment due it each week and then cap it off at the end by putting it all together. Gotcha. Exactly, Katie. I know a lot of people do, you know, but life can get so busy. I guess that's how I feel too, is that it should be, in online, it should be very flexible. But at the same time, I completely understand the idea of sort of having you go ahead and complete it as an assignment. So, well, great. And who just signed on? Brandy. Hi, Brandy. I'm glad you made it. Well, great. I just wanted to get your feedback, guys, so that next time this course is taught, we'll make some changes to it. And maybe I will suggest to Katie that it may be better having it as a weekly assignment. Fantastic. Thanks, guys. So no problem, Brandy, no problem. So week 3. Let's talk about this really quick. So you've got your product, you've got your sales methods. This week you're going to describe one of each for your product, since we're talking about sales dialogues. So for your product, you need to have an example. How can it be used? How will this aid the customer? You also need to have an anecdote, which is basically just an example, but it's in story form. So how has it helped previous customers? And you guys had some fantastic posts in the discussion boards of anecdotes and descriptions of how products helped previous customers. So good job. I liked reading those. The comparison, you need to have a comparison. So you're comparing your product to another product or service, depending on how you've built this. And then you also need to have an analogy, and an analogy is this is like this. So I liked the example out of the book. Developing a customized sales training program is like planning for a family vacation. So you probably would have never really put those two things together. But for this purpose, and in the book, it actually makes quite a bit of sense. So you need to have an example of each one of these for your product. Next, you need to develop a sales aid for your product. And there are examples of these in the textbook, but we're also going to talk about some sales aids here in just a minute as well. So we'll pick that back up in a minute. You also need to list 5 common or expected objections to your product. So what your customers may not like about your product, maybe what they may not need in your product or in your service. So take a minute to just sort of think about that. List 5 common or expected objections to your product. Oh, I'm sorry, we already did that one. Which type of objection do you anticipate the most? Which type of objection do you anticipate the least? You need to answer each of these questions. What techniques will you use to earn the commitment, to sort of pull them over to your side? Are there any techniques that you will avoid, that you absolutely do not want to use? And which techniques will you avoid and wait. Does that make sense? Are there any techniques that you will avoid? Which techniques will you avoid? Never mind. And why will you avoid them? So give me an explanation of why you would avoid that technique. Sorry, the words kind of caught me off guard there. So these are the basics of the things that you need to have going for week 3, right out of chapter 7 and chapter 8 in your e-textbook. Correct? So today we're going to go over a little bit out of chapter 7, creating and communicating value in your product. So first of all, let's talk about sales dialogue. And I want to bring up the fact again, guys, that no matter what area that you're in, no matter what you're majoring in, you are going to be selling something, whether it's you in a sales interview, whether it's an actual product, whether it's an actual service. Just in general in life, there's always something that you are selling. So this will be very applicable. I like the examples that you guys have found sort of here and there just in life of where you could use some of these things. So the most effective sales dialogues are planned and practiced by salespeople. Oh my goodness, and I know you don't want to really think about this, but yes, salespeople tend to practice their spiel. Sometimes it's in front of the mirror. Sometimes it's bounced off another colleague. Maybe it's using your webcam, recording your sales dialogue, and then going back and critically analyzing yourself. The thing is, there's always room for improvement, and there's great methods to practice this. Now, some things just sort of have to be developed over time. So maybe you memorize your sales dialogue, and then over the weeks and months and possibly years that follow, you perfect it through your experience, through the stories that you have gathered, through selling this product. So these will all come along nicely. Number two, you want to encourage buyer feedback. So you're not just talking at them, you're communicating with them, you're wanting to hear what your customer has to say, have a good back and forth. Third, focus on creating value for the buyer. And I have an example of this coming up here in just a minute. Number four, present value in an interesting and understandable way. So it needs to be broken down. It needs to be easy to understand. Try not to throw in a lot of jargon that the customer would not connect to or understand. Engage and involve the buyer in the process by asking for information from them, getting feedback. And lastly, support customer value with objective claims. And this is where your research and your stories come in, is at number 6. So here we go. Here's an example of creating value for the buyer. I'll be honest, this car is way overpriced, gets horrible mileage, and smells exactly like steamed broccoli. It does have dual climate control, though. So that very sentence, we've created value for the buyer. Can you tell? We've got a snowman, we've got a cactus. This is very important to them. But I'm pumped. Okay. I'll let it sink in for a minute, guys. This is creating value for the buyer. So they found the thing that they're looking for. And sometimes that's what you have to do with your buyers as well, is find the magic thing that they're actually searching for. Okay, encouraging buyer feedback. What do we want to hear from our customer? Here's a few examples of phrases that you might use. How does this sound to you? And then pause, and you're waiting to actually hear back from them. Does this make sense to you so far? Would this feature be useful in your current operations? What do you think? So these are all examples of things that you might say to your customer. So here's my real life example. CCC is located right next door to Sam's Club, and I live, of course, in Fairland, Oklahoma, way on down the road, about an hour and 15 minutes from Tulsa. So I rarely go there, but I went ahead and made the jump and got a membership. So yesterday I went in and found all these wonderful things, and I was checking out, and I don't know how many times I've gotten this spiel already, but they tried to get me to upgrade my membership. Have you guys ran into this before, either in the checkout line or up at customer service? Yes. Chris, you understand. Anybody else? And I know this happens at other businesses as well. They want their, yes, exactly. Exactly. I have already joined and I've paid this certain fee. So what I was basically told by the checkout person, she was really sweet, was, you know, hey, for $44 you can upgrade your membership. You'll get so much off at the pharmacy. Well, I don't have any prescriptions. You'll get $10 back for every $500 you spend. $10. So it's going to cost me $44. And I know, right, Katie? It's going to cost me $44. I rarely go there. I don't actually live in town, but I'll save $10 for every $500 I win. Another perk was I can go to VIP events. So on Black Friday, you get to come in a day early and see what they have. Well, again, I don't live in town, so all of these things that she was trying to sell me on, I really had no connection. Exactly, Katie, exactly. So I don't know if I'll actually spend that over a course of a year. That would be a lot of cash to have to spend to earn back that fee. She was very persistent, I'll give her that. But I had the same spiel whenever I signed up for the card in the first place, and I've had the same one 2 or 3 times now in the checkout line. So I understand suggested sailing, but I think at some point it can be a very big turnoff to the customer as well. And you guys had mentioned, several people have mentioned working at Target before and how the credit cards are, we really need to push that at the checkout as well. So that's the thing that the person just sort of sits through, and every once in a while it actually works, right? And I'm sure the same thing happens at Sam. So, however, she really wasn't hearing me on the customer feedback when I said, well, I live out of town. Well, I hardly ever come here. But she kept going. That's true. Walmart does the same with the cards, with the credit cards. Furniture protection plan. Yes, Katie, I know that one as well. Right. So it really is worth it, huh? The same thing goes for certain products where they want you to buy the extended warranty. You really just have to weigh the cost and benefits and decide what's best for you, right? Okay, so have your sales dialogue ready, practice it, listen to your customer, wait for that feedback, and then try to connect even further. Here's an example. I found this today, guys. I'm not kidding. This morning, this is a Facebook post from a buy-sell trade group. This is what it said. Coach shoes, size 7, $123,000, 450 cents. Jay, Oklahoma. Anyone interested in a pair of Coach shoes? I can post a pic. There was no picture below it. The backs are wore, but still a cute pair of shoes. I want you guys to tell me from reading this. Oh wow! I just read the rest of yours, Katie. That's great. If it's destroyed, they will fix it within 5 years. That's fantastic. I know, Blanca, right? So I wanted to put this in here. Katie, it could be. This could very well be. So this came up in one of our local groups, and I thought, wow, what a great example to use in class. So sometimes you're not selling in person. Sometimes you may be selling over the internet. Maybe it's selling things on a buy-sell trade group. So I want you guys to tell me, what are some things you could do? Chris, images, I think, are very, very important with a pair of shoes, right? An actual price, maybe say what area they can meet in. That's true, so that you know it's local. Now this said Jay, Oklahoma, and it was listed on a Grove selling site. But you're right, you never know of the pickup points. You would definitely want to see images, that's true. So I think the number one thing we need to have here is an image, because you need to be able, just because it says Coach shoes, it could be any color, any type. What style? Are these sandals? Are these tennis shoes? What are they? I guess picture is on request. The backs are wore. Well, we need to see a picture of that as well, especially if you're going to be driving a ways to possibly purchase these shoes for $123,456. They might be diamond studded, I'm not sure. So in so many different areas of our life, we can improve our sales techniques. I should contact this person. No. Not really, right? Okay, understanding and interesting sales dialogue. You give them verbal support, your voice characteristics, and I have to say right off the top of my head, I cannot stand to hear my own voice on video, on recordings, period. It really gets on my nerves, and I think a lot of people are that way. But you need to have, so because of that, what you can do is again, practice. Try to, I actually, when I was in college, went into a speech course that was supposed to help with, I believe it was called speech and diction, and it made me so self-critical and subconsciously, I felt like I couldn't even speak after that class. The teacher would tell you sort of what you're doing wrong and how you could improve it. And then it was hard to have basic conversations, I felt. My mother-in-law worked overseas. She took classes to get rid of her Okie accent. Now, I love my Okie accent. I'm fine with that. So think about, consider your voice characteristics. You want to have, for your product, examples and anecdotes, comparisons and analogies, as we spoke of earlier. And here's an example. Having a smartphone is like having your own personal secretary. So what is that specific blurb? What's that an example of? Having a smartphone is like having your own personal secretary. What would you call that? This one right here. An example, an anecdote, a comparison, or an analogy. We'll see who has their e-text up. An analogy, that's correct. Because, you know, is like is kind of your key term in there. Then we've got the smartphone has the same feature as these other phones, yet it costs 20% less. What would that be an example of? Yeah, that's a basic comparison. That's right, because we're just comparing the phone to these other brands. Very good. Okay, sales aids, which you're going to be adding to your final project. Oh, it's okay, Katie. I completely understand. I knew what you were going for there. Sales aids is to basically use any type of a printed material, an electronic material, and product demonstrations as well, to engage and involve your buyers. So you're going to need to do this for your product. Let me get it to go this next slide here. Reasons for using sale aids. One of the first things I think of with a sale aid is PowerPoints or Google Slides. And the reason why this comes to my mind is because I use it so often in my line of work. I use this when we do our live lectures. When I present to a group, I would use PowerPoints. And it's a fantastic creative way to have a visual that you can easily change, and it acts sort of as your guide through your presentation. So we're capturing the buyer's attention, which is kind of what I want to do as well through the live lecture. I want to keep you guys interested. Generate interest in the recommended solution. Make presentations a little more persuasive, because a lot of us are very visual. We need to be able to see the product. We need to be able to understand it, and sometimes we need to read while we're seeing this visual presentation to truly soak it in. Increase the buyer's participation and involvement in the process, maybe get some questions going. Provide the opportunity for collaboration add clarity, give supportive evidence, maybe if you have some research about your product, you know, how much better it is than the other ones, maybe a comparison. Augment the prospect's retention of information, because if we hear it and see it, chances are we're going to remember it a little bit longer. And enhance the professional image of a salesperson and selling organization. So if you want to look like a professional, definitely have your slides ready. Chris, you may know this. What's the name of, it's a new slide thing. I haven't even used it yet, but I know a lot of people do. Is it Prezi? Okay, yeah. I've never used Prezi before, but I've seen a few presentations, and they're really amazing. So that's sort of a next step to make your presentation even more engaging. It might be something that you look up. It's fun, doesn't work for charts so much though. Oh, gotcha, Chris. Okay, so it may have its limitations. And isn't it Prezi? I think if you guys want to look that up, you might check out Prezi. Okay, next, tips for preparing visual aids. Keep them simple, and you know, it's funny that this term is on a slide that has lots of information. So I kind of messed up here. Part of these slides were pre-made. Some of them I have to change a little bit. So this one actually isn't very simple. I think I need to narrow down the information a little bit. When possible, use phrases and let the buyer's mind complete the sentences. So you're not telling them exactly what you want them to know. You let them sort of fill in the blank. Use the same layout and format throughout the presentation. This is very important. You don't want to skip around with different color schemes. You don't want to skip around with different types of clip art. If you can pick a theme, such as using only cartoon clip art, do that, or only actual pictures, do that. So you want it to have a nice flow, so it's not here and there all over the place. Something that I did for this presentation in particular, since we're talking about sales and connecting to people, is that I chose the color blue as the background. And blue is one of the most universally accepted colors. Almost everyone is accepting of blue. So some people say in job interviews you have two choices. Black and blue are usually the most popular ones. Unless it's your hair color. You're right, Katie. I'm sorry. And I've seen some beautiful blue hair colors out there. But for a professional presentation, you may want to pick for normal colors. You're right. Just for the day. So violet is much more acceptable. So always check for typographical and spelling errors. Anytime there is a spelling error on a presentation, it will jump out like crazy, especially if you have those spelling Nazis in your group, and we always have to have a few. Use color sparingly for more functional reasons rather than decorative. Leave plenty of white space. Don't crowd the page too much. So I wouldn't want to go ahead and plug something else in up here and another graph in over here and another one over here. You want to kind of keep it simple. Each visual should present only one idea versus a whole lot. Now, on this one, we are at least focusing on one topic. Target using a maximum of 7 words per line and 7 lines per visual, just as a guide. Where possible, use graphics rather than tables. Now, every once in a while, you need a table or a chart, though, to present your information. Maybe you're comparing your product to someone else's or to several competitors. In that case, you would really need it. Use bullet points to emphasize key points. I normally teach in early childhood education, and this is one of the things that we talk about when creating a newsletter for a group of parents, that instead of presenting it in paragraph form, you should always put it bulleted instead to make it much easier to read, much easier to find the facts. Never read the presentation directly from the visual, and clearly label each visual with titles and headings to help your prospective customers. So those are a few tips. These are located in your book as well. Let's look really quick. What time we got? 1:30? Working with sales aids. Set a state selling point and introduce the sales aid. So let's say you're not using a PowerPoint. Maybe you have a presentation board. Maybe you have an example of the product that you have sitting on a table. You want to present that. Explain the sales aid, what you're going to do with it, and summarize some of the information. Guidelines for product demonstrations. Have you guys ever been in a situation before where you had to do a product demonstration? Whether it was to your colleagues, maybe at a part-time job. Yes. What did Katie, have you had to do? Is it cosmetics? Is that? Not really. You haven't? Chris, I thought you may have. You worked at Sonic. I did too. Yeah. Resort. Okay. And Katie, you did different techniques, and I bet that was actually quite a bit of fun. Oh, you had to do a demonstration video for Matrix. That's fantastic, Katie. That's great. And that's a good experience, too. That's great. One of the first presentation type things I had to do was when I was in a teacher education, college teaching class at NSU, was we had to present to a group of people and at a group project, and I taught them how to tie-dye t-shirts. I was so nervous. But it really makes you think about what you're doing and get the steps that you need at each level. It helps with planning. Also, I worked at a tamale factory one time, and we went to a grocery store in Texas and handed out samples of tamales, where we also talked about how we created our tamales. And I would not have had that knowledge if I had not worked on the tamale assembly line. So everything you do can go into making you a better product demonstrator, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Oh, yes, and now everybody wants tamales. They were amazing. So you want to check your product, make sure it's neat and clean, especially if it's tamales. Check for a problem-free operation. The last thing you want to do is be presenting your product and how amazing it is, and it breaks. I've actually had some situations like this before. Be confident and able to demonstrate the product skillfully, which is going to mean practicing. Again, just with your sales dialogue, if you're using a product demonstration, you also want to practice that as well. Anticipate any problems. Make sure that setup and knockdown are easy and quick. I watch this sometimes with FCCLA STAR events. We have students that have to do demonstrations, whether it's a cooking demonstration or a sewing demonstration, and they have to be able to do the setup and knockdown process in a certain number of minutes. So for you, you need to be able to do that as well for your product if you're doing demos. Okay, really quick, we've got one more topic to cover, an ethical dilemma, and then we'll be down to our questions. So we're almost there, guys. Everybody still awake? Tank just crowed. Did you hear him? It was like he was on cue. I don't know if you guys can hear him, but I said, "Are you guys okay?" And he went, Okay. So a little bit about group demonstrations. I'll have to get Tank to come in here in a minute. He's huge. Sometimes you're in a spot where you're not only demonstrating a product and being the person that's in complete control, sometimes you're working with group members as well, or doing a group sales presentation. So here's the thing. When selling to groups, salespeople can expect tougher questions and should prepare accordingly. When you've got more than one mind thinking about your sales product, your service that you're offering, there's going to be even more questions come up than you would probably have with a single person. So you have to be really ready for this situation. Again, a way that you might practice is, instead of just practicing by yourself, presenting to a group of friends. You're still going to be nervous, but your friends in a group could actually be coming up with questions similar to what you might get presenting to a group as well. So when presenting to a group, arrive early, get things set up. You want to appear as prepared, as professional, as organized as possible. Make eye contact, periodic eye contact with each member of the buying group. Now this is so important because I have seen presenters before in large groups of up to like 50 people, where the person only makes contact with just a few people in the group. And what that does is you wind up feeling like you're not even there, that this person doesn't even recognize your presence. So in a group aspect, like in the picture where we've got 6 people, you need to be sure and make eye contact with each one of those at some point. So eye contact says a lot and means a lot. Also, communication, solicit opinions and feedback from each member of the buying group and avoid taking sides. Try to stay medium or median in that case. Handling questions, listen carefully. Again, maintain the eye contact. Repeat, restate their questions so that you know for sure you're understanding it correctly, and answer each question very convincingly. So you don't want to sound like you're not sure. However, sometimes you may have to actually say, you know, I'm not sure about that, but I will do a little research and get back to you. It's okay to admit when you do not know something, but you want to try to answer the ones that you already know as well as you can. All right, ethical dilemma. This is our last thing to do before the end of our presentation, guys. In fact, it looks like my question slide didn't come up. Tracy Wise has been selling computer systems for just over 9 years, and that's a long time to sell computer systems, right? Has earned the position of senior account manager for one of the leading companies in the industry. For several months, Wise has been working with a major insurance company that is looking for an automated information system that will solve the company's growing backlog of worker compensation claims. After reviewing the information from previous sales calls through the buyer, Wise and her tech support team decided that the R740 system offered the greatest benefits to this particular customer. So she and her tech support team got together and decided R740 is the one. However, a special sale promotion provided company salespeople additional commissions and double points toward the annual sales incentive trip to Hawaii for each R800 system sold, so a different system. The higher priced R800 had all the same features and capabilities of the R740, along with many more. However, few of these additional capabilities would ever be of value to the insurance company, to their customer. During her last sales call, Wise explained and demonstrated that R740 and the R800. She persuaded the buyer that their company would quickly grow into these additional features that the company may not need, making the R800 the best deal. Based on Wise's presentation and stated benefits, the company purchased the R800, and Wise received the bonus commission and qualified for the Hawaii sales incentive trip. Now, did the salesperson act in an ethical manner? What are the possible ramifications for this action? What do you guys think in this ethical situation? Yeah, Katie, you're familiar with this one, huh? So you're selling a product to the customer that they may not necessarily need. Is that what you mean? They get trips to Cancun at least once a year if they sell X number of things. Gotcha. Exactly. That would be kind of a hard environment, I think. It is. So do you work towards selling that X number of things? Oh, and Chris, you think kind of yes and no. So the company knew the difference between the two and still went with the R800. The company did ultimately make the choice, that's true. But they didn't really need the R800, that's right, that's right. Oh, and so you've seen people actually, yeah, doing this. So selling things specifically for getting that added incentive, that added trip. That's right. So that's right. The decision does ultimately come down to the customer. And some people are just fine with doing this to get that trip to Cancun. Um, I like to think whenever I'm selling to the customer, and in this case, the customer is my students, that I want them to get specifically what they need. So here's an example. I had a student that was interested in getting her bachelor's degree. She first wanted to get her associate's degree. But being honest, I have to say no. If you're interested in getting your bachelor's degree, you need to go on to a junior college or to a four-year college, because some of our credits may not transfer. And she said, wow, thank you. You know, I really appreciate the honesty there, because while you guys are here, you're getting trained for a specific job in a specific area. The fantastic thing is you're going to get out, you're going to graduate and get that job, and you may already have that job. But the last thing we want to do is steer our customers or our students the wrong way. Yeah. We don't get any Cancun vacations either. So it's, yes, this one can kind of go either way. I completely understand. Let me see, I got Chris, Katie. Chris and Katie have been busy. All right, guys, for lack of my final slide, I can't believe I didn't load that on here. I'm going to hop back up to the beginning and ask, does anybody at this time have any questions? Is from just the grading process of grading your assignments, checking discussion boards, everybody seems to be doing fine. You're all good? All right, so we're at the end of our live lecture. I want you guys to know, if you have any questions, contact me, email me, Facebook me. Oh, thank you, Katie. You're awesome. Thank you, and I want you guys to go on and have a fabulous day. And that's all, folks. All right, thanks. Bye, guys. Have a great day. Bye, Brandy.